On the subject of the registration, though, I do have a fun story about that. You are
Oh
not the
yeah.
only person who forgets the registrations. Long time ago, back when I was living in this trailer with a friend of mine, I drove this Chevy Lumina that was just a bucket of crap that I got from JD Byrider. Um, but JD Byrider does this thing where basically they sell you a bucket of crap, and because your credit's so crappy, they sell it to you for like 100 times the market value of it,
Oh
and
yeah.
then they expect it to break down because they'll take it if you tow it in, and then they just tack that loan to the next one. So this was the second car from JD Byrider, and this time I was like, no, I'm paying it off. So side story that I ended up paying it off. It started on fire the next day, burned
Oh
up.
oh.
But I got it to the finish line. I ended up paying over $30,000 for a '90s Chevy Lumina. But
Jesus.
yeah, do not buy cars from JD Byrider.
Oh
It's not worth
no.
it. That just
Oh
saying
yeah.
that right now. But that car had broken down one of the many times it broke down. I couldn't get it started. This was in February. Now, my birthday is in October. Just want to point that out.
Yeah.
So I had my dad come over to take a look at it. This was back when, well, this was back when he was in the state, and one of the times that we were on good terms. And he came over, he's looking at it, and then he's like, "Well, we got to call a tow truck." And then he's like, "I'm like, okay." And then he calls tow truck, and then he's looking at the car, and he's like, "Well, uh, the tags are expired, right?" And I'm like, "Excuse me?" And he's like, "Yeah, your license plate's been expired since October." And I was like, "Oh no!" Like, I mean,
Oh.
like it had been like 6 months. What's even funnier though, to put an even bigger cap on that, is I had these friends who lived quite a ways away, like out in Garrettsville, and I would
Yeah.
regularly go out there, hang till the middle of the night, then drive home. So one night I'm driving home, I get pulled over by the cops, right?
Yeah.
These cops pull me over. They get me out of the car because, I'm in my 20s, so I must be on some sort of drugs. It's the middle of the night, and I'm in a Chevy Lumina. Actually, they had pulled me over because my license plate light had gone out, right?
Yeah.
So they pull me over. They search my car, uh, like top to bottom. They're looking for drugs. They had canine unit. I'm like, this is ridiculous, guys. The bulb went out. I'm not smuggling drugs. One guy was really mean. Another dude was like, this is just a formality, whatever. So finally, they realized that I have no drugs. I don't do drugs. So they let me go. My plates were expired the entire time that was going on. So they searched it top to bottom for like drugs and everything else. Never ran my plates.
That's that. Ugh.
There you
I
go.
mean, that's yeah.
There you
I
go.
mean,
That's the winner. That's the winner. Like, it immediately
truthfully,
hit me when my dad said that. I was like, oh, those guys are morons.
Time to get your fix. It's a horrible gaming podcast. It's not good, it's not great. Horrible gaming podcast. It's not even what you would call fair. It's really not that good. Horrible Gaming Podcast.
Hello, my name is Zachariah with Old Man Gaming. Welcome to another horrible gaming podcast. For whatever reason, you have decided to tune in, and we thank you. With me, as always, is...
Neil, aka Tiny Wizard.
Yeah, I decided to go big there. I'm not sure why.
I kind of tried to meet it and then dropped off halfway through.
So before we get into it, as usual, our normal disclaimer. We do this with every inch of time that we have, but we are working fathers. Well, I'm a working father. Neil is a
I
working
learned
husband.
something just now.
You're a working husband. And right. And my kid's in the background on a tablet, so this is the best we can do. We also want to do a couple of shout-outs before we get into it. Mark Bell, thank you to all the original graphics you're going to see if you are watching the YouTube version. And then my brother, thank you to him for all of the original music here and on all of our shows at the channel. And I urge you to check out his Red Delirium YouTube album. It's almost finished, and it is a masterpiece in my opinion.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
All right, so that brings us to our first segment and possibly our most favorite, fan interaction. That's where we talk to you guys, the fans. We read out your comments that you post on the YouTubes or the Discords or anywhere else that we see. We also usually throw questions at you. We use your comments to decide the votes for the Horrible Arena, all that fun stuff. So, with that said, let's get into it. Kevin, right off the bat, he is referring to the fact that I was worried that we had hurt his feelings because his comments have been less lately. And he said, no, just happened to listen at another time and wasn't able to comment all the time. Then we have Kayla, who says, I hate doing it again, but my vote is for Neil's DLC this week. Love Mass Effect too much not to vote for it. Fair enough, Kayla. I knew I wasn't going to win. I was pitching my heart. Not the smart play, but I get it. Niels was very good as well. I forgot to heart it and thumbs it up. Hearting it, thumbs it up. Live. You just got a live heart and thumbs up.
Live. I imagine she's sitting downstairs on the couch right now. Oh my good.
Yeah, she's that waiting for it. Why hasn't he thumbed it up? So we did not get any other votes, which means, Neil, you are destroying this game, sir. Destroying it this week. I mean, there's a lot of game left to be played. We can say that, but yeah, you killed it today.
Well, thanks. I will say though, given the fact that I was doing some running around before we recorded, I did not get a chance to pre-type this week.
I was having a really hard time with this week, so I wouldn't be too worried if I were you, because I was having a hard time finding, just for everybody out there, because we forgot to say it on the show again, the criteria this week was to pitch a fourth that had not come yet for a trilogy that already existed, and I couldn't think of anything that didn't have a 4, except one.
That was the thing. I must not have clarified it well enough in the text, because go figure, I was at work by myself, so
right.
I couldn't exactly. Can't remember if I mentioned it or not. You can re-pitch a fourth that exists.
Oh no,
yeah.
Neil, don't do that to me now.
Because if that's the case, well, no, technically, I don't know. I think mine technically would still be in play. Okay. Well,
I was very upset because I was just sitting there what doesn't have a fourth game? Everything has a fourth game. Even the old games that I went back to, I was like, no, there's a fourth one in the series. I could not figure out a fourth game to save my life. There's only one game that I know of that does not have a fourth, and that's what I decided to pitch it, and it's not a great pitch because it's not the one I would pick to do. It's the only one I could think of that didn't have a fourth. In fairness, though, everybody out there, usually what happens is we forget, and then I realize during the editing process that we didn't announce it, and I ask, if it's Neil's turn, I ask him on the fly in the middle of nowhere. So it's always just a mad scramble dash. So, but
well, sir, you have, if you decide to change your mind, you do still have one whole podcast episode. So
well, I am a car salesman with these things, so it's already working in my brain. I'll tell you that right now. So that puts you up 6-1 for the new 52.
Oh geez,
6-1. You're running away with it. I got a lot of work to do. So then continuing, Kev Too Tall. I'm pleasantly surprised by the PS5 pricing. I think the digital is the price because of the Series S. Otherwise, I think it would have been only $50 cheaper. I think the digital version of the PlayStation 5 is one of the biggest mistakes PlayStation has made, personally. I think it's not going to sell. I think it's not. It's in the dumbest spot ever. It's not weak enough. It's not dumbed down enough to be low enough price to matter. And it's not. And at that price, why wouldn't you just buy the one with the disc? That's how I feel about it.
An interesting thing got brought up. I believe it was either GameScoop or MinMax, one of those two. I can't remember, but somebody had a theory that the all digital edition, one of the main purposes it serves is to like give Sony the ability to say that the PS5 starts at $400, just so it sounds better that way, which is true. But at the
Yeah.
same time, they make more money on software with the digital version of the console. I personally, like with my pre-order, I was not going to pre-order an all digital if that's all they had left. I'm definitely going. I got my disc drive one.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like a silly thing to me. I could be completely and totally wrong. So then we get to Phil Billy, the Eeyore. Zach, I think I know the solution for you to feel sane with Sony and Microsoft. Join me on the dark side with me and accept the fact that big companies are truly in it for the money alone in the end, and learn to channel your anger and dislike towards people. Not all people, but the dumb ones laugh out loud. Phil, I just want to say my anger right now is definitely with the people. I'm already with you on that one. While I do think Microsoft is a little bit more consumer friendly, my problem is all these people look at these two companies. They see one that's super consumer friendly and one that's dicks to them, and they pick the consumer. They pick the dicks. I don't understand that. My anger is squarely with the consumers right now. I think I don't understand their logic whatsoever. So moving on, Kev Too Tall. You said something I don't like in quotations, and then he says Zach's internal monologue hearing about Neil's pre-order. Laugh out loud. Yeah, I know. I don't know. It's something about gaming consoles. I think it's because I'm in the ecosystem and I actually care about it. Like it. I don't know. There are certain things that I've come to understand in my 39 years of life that you just can't control. Like you can't control. You can't do anything about them. Getting mad about it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. We're not going to go into them because it'll make a lot of people mad. Because that's stuff that involves law enforcement and politics and stuff like that. And that's why I never talk about it on the show, because people wouldn't agree with me, and that's fine. And that's fine because I don't care. With games, I care, and I shouldn't, because it's just like the other stuff where I can't really do anything about it. But at the same time, every week we have to come back and we have to do this show, and I can't go into it not caring,
Right.
So still, it's a garbage person thing to think to try and not to say crappy stuff to Neil, who was excited about it, which is why I forced myself not to. I know I sounded like an asshole on the podcast last week, but I was proud that I didn't say anything dickish.
Hey, all things are not for all people.
No, they aren't. But if you're a friend, you should be happy for your friend. Like, you shouldn't just be like a jerk.
Truthfully, I knew you did not give a shit in general, because you weren't, the PS5 was not your big console. I'm sure given the choice between you, it would still stand as the Series X.
But the thing is like, I do want to just say I wouldn't pick the Series X out of loyalty. I would pick it because I feel it's the best system for me, the consumer. I do want to say that. I get accused of being an Xbox fanboy, and it drives me nuts. It's the biggest thing that drives me nuts. And the reason it drives me nuts, let me just explain why it drives me nuts. The reason it drives me nuts is because in my head, when I think of a fanboy, it's somebody who's going to like something regardless of what they do. You know what I mean? Like, if you're a fanboy to a wrestler in pro wrestling, if they're heel, you love them. If they're face, you love them. Like, that's what a fanboy is. And I don't like being accused of being an Xbox fanboy because I don't like them just to like Xbox. I like them because of the things they do. If they were doing the stuff that Sony or Nintendo are doing, I would dislike them and I would pick a different one. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and that's just something like that always bothers me when I get called it, just because like I don't, other people could disagree with me that they're doing the right thing and other people are doing the wrong thing. I'm picking somebody based on like the stuff I see, not just the colors. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it's not blind patriotism. Is the only reason I get so bothered by that. But But I think that covers fan interaction, unless you want to ask a question to anybody.
Oh yeah. Honestly, I can't even remember. I think 2 weeks ago we asked a question, but I
Yeah,
don't think we asked one last week.
I don't think we did either. We've been concerned about time. Actually
Yeah.
making stuff happen.
So now we're just gonna eat that time up while we sit here and figure out a question to ask. I mean, I honestly don't know. Every single week, my mind goes back to the whole, "Whoa, what are you playing right now?" But I
Yeah,
mean, you
yeah.
can only play that question
Yeah, we
like
can only do that
twice
so many
a year.
times. So many times. We can only do that so many
Yeah,
times. What's your
I don't
favorite
know.
indie game out there, everybody?
An indie game.
Indie
Well,
game.
that's
What's your favorite
easy.
indie game? I know what yours is, Neil, but what's your favorite indie game out there, people? If you feel so inclined, comment below or on the Discord or in all the places we're going to tell you about at the end of the episode.
There you go.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
All right, so that brings us to our first talking point, and it's a pretty big one. I don't necessarily think it's as big and bad as everybody's saying it is, but we're going to get into it. They have finally announced the price for the Xbox proprietary storage. Now, just so you guys know, when it comes to the new 4K games, for the way a standard state drive works is the game itself has to be on the standard state drive. It can't be on another drive because that's how it makes those loading times completely obsolete. That's how it makes the how it does quick resume and everything. So like if you've got a hard drive plugged into your Xbox, as most people do, it's that hard drive, while it will work with the new system and you will be able to pull games off of it, you won't be able to take advantage of the standard state drive in that way. It's not really compatible because the speed of the USB is not fast enough to get the game to the system quickly. Do you think I explained that well enough, Neil?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
the gist of it.
So they've been making a proprietary storage drive. So right now, the Series X and the Series S comes with 1 terabyte of space on them, correct?
The S comes with 500 gigs.
Okay, that's going to be what we big talk about. And
Yeah.
this drive is 1 terabyte, one more terabyte. However,
Yes.
it is $219.99, which means a $220 price tag, more with tax. So that's too high. But basically, this drive, the reason that you would use it over your hard drives, as I said before, is any game you put on this drive would be able to use the full SSD, the full power of the SSD. So Neil, let's go to you first, because I think you're going to be a little bit more negative than me. I think we're both going to be kind of on the same page with this one, but I'd rather go to you first because I have a couple of counterpoints. But go ahead.
So, I mean, we knew that it was going to be kind of expensive. I mean, it's proprietary hardware. It's going through Seagate, so it's licensed and everything like that.
Right.
The big issue that I have with all of this is the fact that if you buy a Series S console, you're going to be spending $300 on that console. Now, it comes with 500 gigabytes of memory. Once you start getting those bigger games, you're only going to be able to install, if you're lucky, 4 games, 4 next-gen games on that console. Now, I'm sure the file sizes are going to differ because they're not going to be getting a lot of the visual enhancements that the Series X versions of the games get. So they're going to be scaled down, but still you're only going to be able to install so many games. That extra terabyte, which should be standard across the board at this point, is going to cost you an extra $220. So at this point, to have a Series S with a regular amount of storage, you are now looking at $520, which is more than the Series X at retail. I mean, tax and whatever, sure, but the fact still remains it's going to be more.
Yep.
So coupling those two things together, when you now look at the Series S, knowing full well, unless you plan on uninstalling games and installing new ones on a regular basis, the Series S next to the Series X there's a lot bigger of a divide between those two. You know, the Series S was positioned as a nice entry level. I think now, more so looking at it from what has been presented, especially with the Bethesda acquisition and everything like that, I think the Series S is not more so aimed at somebody who wants a second console like myself, who is primarily going to go to PlayStation 5 this generation, or at least right out of the gate. It's aimed more so for somebody who is a casual or light gamer, or who is looking to replace their original Xbox One or original Xbox One S from this current generation, and looking to do something with that, because a 500 gigabyte storage is horrible for this new generation, but it was like okay in this past generation. You can still use your external hard drives that most people have bought for their original Xbox Ones and have been using.
Mm-hmm.
You can still play those old games like that. I just think I feel like that might have been something that they should have thrown out there along with the console,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because that's effectively, it's almost, while it's not mandatory, it's effectively mandatory to get this expansion.
Okay, I'm gonna jump in now, if
Okay.
that's okay.
Sure.
First of all, I want to say one thing about this. The real travesty of this SSD is in the Series S, and I like that you centered on the Series S being the issue, and it is the issue because it doesn't have a disk drive. It's a digital only console, so you're holding the games there. Personally, I have a lot of games on my hard drives now. I do have a 1 terabyte hard drive that I use for my Xbox One. However, I never even needed it until I started doing YouTube stuff. I usually just uninstall games I'm not playing and then reinstall them when I want to play them.
Mhm.
So that wouldn't bother me as much. So it's not mandatory for the Series X, in my opinion. It just isn't. You're going to have a terabyte with it. It's going to be okay. I also want to point out that PlayStation is going to have their own proprietary storage, which is going to probably cost the same or more. I just want to say that because those are both terabyte
Absolutely.
systems as well. Like Xbox is getting all the crap on this one, and I feel like while they should be getting crap, this is too much. The only reason we're talking only Xbox is because PlayStation just hasn't told us about theirs yet, but they're going to have to do the same thing, right? Like they can't run. They only have a terabyte in their hard drives as well. The real travesty is the Series X and how it only has 500 gigabytes. It's only got the 500 gigabytes. You absolutely need the terabyte to store more than the 500 gigabytes. And the big thing is while in the beginning it's not going to be mandatory because you're really not going to be playing next-gen systems in the beginning, guys. If you get if you get this stuff in the launch, okay, if you get this stuff at launch, you're not going to be playing next-gen games till probably January or February. Like, no games are made for them yet. They're just not. Like, even the stuff in the launch window, I mean, maybe PlayStation, but even PlayStation has come out and said some of the games that they've got coming out were actually made for PS4, like Miles Morales and the other one, Horizon. So, like, none of these games that are coming out are optimized for these systems yet. Okay, so everything that you're going to be playing day one is going to be games you already have or could have been played on the Xbox One. They're not going to be utilizing that SSD anyway. So your hard drive's fine. The problem with this is going to be in 4 or 5 months when these games start all becoming 4K, and that's when the download sizes become ridiculous. Like, I want to hammer this home and stop me if I'm wrong, but when you got the Xbox One and it's got the 4K, if you're doing a 4K optimization, the download size, the install size of the game is usually like plus 50% or 100% of whatever it is. So if your game is 50 gigabytes to put on, if you're doing a 4K optimization of it, it's probably going to be 100 gigabytes to put on your system. Am I right around the right numbers?
For the most part.
For the most part, give or take.
Well, the difference,
because I know Witcher's was huge. Like,
yeah,
and,
Oh, sorry, just to
No, go ahead.
interject there real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
The difference lies between the characterization of the consoles. So
Right.
the Series S is going to run the games as if it's were an Xbox One S. So that
Right.
you won't be forced through those texture updates, which
Right.
is what a lot of the 4K stuff is
Right.
textures. That won't be sent to your system whenever you install or download or
Here's the
anything.
thing, though, and that's what I was saying in the beginning, because none of those games are going to have that. But like what I was getting to is, yeah, the One X has those like texture updates for the certain games that need the texture updates.
Right.
In the beginning, that's not going to matter because none of these games are going to have those. Like they're just like only a few of them will have those up-resed versions that take up a ton of space. Most of them are going to be games that were optimized for the previous generation. When we get to a point, though, so what I'm saying is like, I'm not making myself clear. What I'm saying is like, let's say you get Cyberpunk day one on your new system, right?
Yeah.
Cyberpunk might have a version where it's got the 4K graphics, but it's also going to be able to run without the 4K graphics just fine.
Right.
So like, that's what I'm saying is like in the beginning, you don't have to put those on your system. You can just put the normal ones on your system. But there's going to be a point where the games stop making the lower res stuff. They start only making games for 4K stuff. When that happens, the download sizes will skyrocket. And at that point, you will have to have this storage device.
Yeah. I think
like
my
that's
biggest,
what I'm saying is I don't
Yeah.
think that this is a problem for launch. I think this is a problem for January or February when these newer games start coming out and they don't have a lower res version and they want to stick all that on your digital only drive that's 500 gigabytes. Then you're going to be in trouble.
I think my biggest issue with all of this, like I said, I mean, it's a custom solid state drive. So, I mean, it's going to cost money. Anybody who thought that these things were going to be reasonably priced, like, I'm sorry, it's just not going to happen.
Right.
But the
there
the
is
whole,
more to it too. I mean, how fast are these going to drop in price too? You know what I mean?
And
Like,
eventually, I think maybe 2 years from now, we'll start to see them become a bit more reasonably priced, used, stuff like that. But I think the biggest takeaway from this, as all things are presented, is the Series S should not have been marketed as a next-gen console, and it almost seems deceptive in the way that it has been marketed, combining the other information that came out about it and how the games run, along with the storage size, like the storage capacity and the external storage as well.
The way the games run doesn't bother me at all because I mean I don't feel like they were deceptive about that. That was kind of what they marketed that as. I think the storage thing is the real problem. Like I agree with you. I think the storage thing is the 500 gigabyte storage. Like first of all, I don't think if you're releasing a system without a disk drive, it should have less than a terabyte. Period.
Right.
Just in 2020, it shouldn't. Like if you want to release something that contains games, it shouldn't have anything less than a terabyte in 2020 if it does not have a disk drive. You know what I mean?
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
Like I mean, you're trying to put forth a system that's digital only, which means you have a digital library of games. Like you need storage for that. That's the main thing you need. Like that's why people go digital, is so that it can all be in storage instead of on your rack. And you don't want to have to uninstall and reinstall every time you want to play something that you haven't played in a while. And I get that. I end up doing that because I'm just weird like that. I'm kind of obsessive compulsive about my collection, but I understand that most people aren't weird like that and won't do that. The thing is, though, is like this is an all digital system. You need more space. And I agree with you on that 100%. The way they play doesn't bother me. I actually like that. I would have gotten that system like because I don't want to switch my TV. Like, just that right there was enough to make me go, oh, I could play next gen games on my TV right now with any screen without any screen tearing. Great, I would have gotten it. So that didn't bother me at all. What bothers me is this storage thing. I agree with you on that. I don't think it's going to be as big a problem on launch day as everybody's worried about it being, but I think it's an overall problem.
Yeah, I think it's going to be something. I think it's going to be something that everybody's jumped on and done their pre-orders now.
Yeah.
But I think going forward, as more information comes out, I think that Series S console is going to be probably less popular.
Which is sad, because like I said, if they had led with that, I might not be on a PC right now, you know?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, did you want to add anything to this? I think we covered it pretty well.
No, I think that's about it.
Oh, nice, tight talking point. So rare for us.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
All right. So that brings us to our second talking point. We're doing good today, Neil. I know I'm saying that way too early, but we are doing good. So right now, oh my God, my kid's going crazy. Sorry, everybody. So our next talking point is the Nintendo Direct. The next Nintendo Direct coming out got leaked on the intranet. I do not know that much about this story, so I'm going to toss it over to my intrepid co-host, and he's going to give us the skinny, and then we're going to talk about it. Neil?
All right. So it should be said first that this came from Reddit. However, it's been circulating. But the Nintendo Direct, it was going to be scheduled for October 8th. So next week, something along those lines. I don't know what time is anymore. Quarantine. Anyways, but there's some of the stuff in this, it's interesting. So the lineup and supposed release dates or release windows are all present on this. So we're going to begin with WarioWare Switch It Up, coming out summer 2021. I kind of like the WarioWare games.
All right, well.
They're fun, fun little party games. I mean, they don't have very much longevity to them. It's kind of like a Mario Party sort of deal, but
Well, that'd be my biggest problem with it is they're fun little party games. They're going to sell it for $60.
that's one of those that I would definitely pick up used, though.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, keep going. I don't want to interrupt you on everyone.
No, you're good. Go ahead, react to something as it shows up. After that, Pokemon Sword and Shield, the Crown Tundra,
Ooh,
the
they messed that
DLC,
game
I
up.
assume.
I'm
guessing.
guessing that game up, man. Phil Billy, I think he's talked about it on the show before. Phil Billy is actually a huge Pokemon guy.
Yeah.
Actually, the reason the Pokemon Showdown app was even considered for last year's Horrible Game Awards was he pushed for it because he loved it so much. So like he loves Pokemon, and that game I guess they like butchered the Pokédex, and then they charged astronomical amounts of money for the DLC and stuff like that. That game's real messed up.
Yeah, I've heard that the whole cutting out of the original Pokedex just to make some money. But it's looking like it's going to be November 27th, 2020.
Okay.
After that, we've already heard a little bit about this, but Super Mario 3D World and Bowser's Fury, February 12th, 2021.
Right, we got that in the Mario Direct.
Yeah. Kirby Power Rumble is going to launch immediately after the Direct.
What the hell is Kirby? Man, can we get a good Kirby game instead of all these weird ass spin-offs that they keep dropping on the Switch? Like that free boss battle one, and then the other one that's just like a full game, but it's like you fight other Kirbys. It's ridiculous. Just give us a good Kirby game.
Maybe they just don't know what to do with it. I don't know. So then after
Dream
that,
Course again.
The Dragon Quest Anthology.
Ooh.
Coming out December 14th, 2020. Not quite sure what all would be collected in that. There's like, 13 Dragon Quest games or something?
Yeah, there's a lot. I can't imagine that they're all going to be in there.
Then one that I'm actually kind of surprised, Fall Guys Ultimate Knockout after the Direct.
Well, that's good.
We'll see. We'll see if that. Hopefully, that's true because I would love to try that game, and I don't have PlayStation Plus, so I can't really jump on that. But I have the Nintendo Online.
Can I tell you, Switch?
What is this?
It's a My Little Pony. We're recording right now.
But it's Ice Pony.
Oh, okay. All right. I tell you one thing I do love about the Switch. I talked about it in my Spellbreak review. They actually put that on Switch for free as well.
Yeah.
And that's so much fun on Switch. Like, I can play a battle royale, like a AAA battle royale, in my kid's bedroom while she's going to sleep.
Yeah.
Like, I would love Fall Guys on Switch. I think it meets the motif really well. That game is the height of its popularity. I think it's great. The only thing I'll say, though, is Fall Guys is like $20 anywhere you go, and I don't know that I would pay money for Fall Guys.
But at the same time, it's free for PlayStation Plus.
It is. So would they do that for Nintendo, do you think?
That's the question. They could. Who knows?
Right.
But we'll see, I guess.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Another big one, actually. Apparently, Nintendo Game Boy games are going to be coming to the Switch Online service starting after the Direct.
Ooh. So they'll do like another little online section then.
I am assuming, and I think that would fit very well given the portability of the system, being able to run around, with your Nintendo Switch.
Are they doing original Game Boy or like Game Boy Advance though?
That I'm not sure. Truthfully, there's some Game Boy Advance games that I would like to see as well.
Yeah.
That
I'd like to play. Game Boy Advance had a lot of games that I was very interested in, but I never had one, so I never got to play them. There's just for me, that's like a lost section of gaming history that I have never gotten to dabble in. I would love to get the chance to do that.
And they actually pushed a lot of boundaries with the Game Boy Advance. You had first person shooters, you had fighting games, stuff that's how did you get that running on a portable console? It's oh, we did it. Granted, it wasn't always the greatest, but it worked.
Yeah. They had a good GTA game on there too, I think.
One
Chinatown or something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I know there was one that might have been the one for the DS, but I know there was one for Game Boy Advance.
Yeah, that would be. I would be excited to jump into that.
Well, speaking of Grand Theft Auto 3, November 4th, 2020. I don't know why, just randomly the third one.
Grand Theft Auto 3.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's kind of an odd one, I think.
That is very confusing.
Yeah,
very confusing.
But hey, GTA 3, it was the first 3D one, if I'm remembering correctly. So
it was a beast, man. It is the reason Rockstar is what they are today.
Yeah.
GTA 5's greatest selling game of all time. I'm not saying it isn't, but GTA 3 put Rockstar in the position that they were in to make the games, what they are now,
Yeah. Then after that, Persona 5 Scramble. Not quite sure what exactly that is.
All the kids from Persona 5 make scrambled eggs together.
Yeah, honestly, given
it's like Cooking Mama
Persona,
meets Persona.
I would not be surprised at all, because they had a dance themed game that they're doing or did or something like that, and I wouldn't be surprised.
I can't get into those games, man. The really Japanese, we're gonna be super serious here, and then we're gonna do karaoke for 20 minutes, like the Yakuza stuff. It's too much of a juxtaposition for me. I don't mind a little comedy in my depression and vice versa, but when they're walking from point A to point B, just oh, all of our friends are dead and we kill people because we're criminals. Now let's play whack-a-mole. I can't.
Sure.
Yeah,
I
can't jump in my head.
So that is apparently coming out January 8th, 2021.
Okay.
And then we kind of start getting into some of the bigger sort of things. Apparently, the Super Smash Brothers Ultimate Challenger Pack 7, Crash Bandicoot is going to be the character. Would show up after the direct with Sakurai actually doing a demo. That one I'm not quite certain on because
I'm very confused because Crash Bandicoot isn't in Fire Emblem. And I thought they were only putting Fire Emblem characters in Smash Brothers now.
For a second, I thought you were being serious, and I was highly confused. But
that was the idea.
No. Now that I'm on the same page, I'm absolutely confused as well. It doesn't fit well with the 1/5 of the entire Smash roster being Fire Emblem.
Right.
But yeah, I thought there was a character from ARMS, unless that character already came out.
He might.
Because that's the one that they had announced. Honestly, that's the one thing that I kind of need to get yet is the Challenger, the season passes for Smash Brothers, because I don't have any of the DLC characters.
No one cares about ARMS, Nintendo. Stop trying to make ARMS a thing.
So we have 2 more things left on this list. The first one actually kind of might make you a little upset.
Oh, goody.
Yeah.
Man, I swear, you scour shit for things that make me upset. You do a little evil laugh to yourself when you're like, I'm going to put this in the show. This will make Zach really mad. I know it. I know. You twirl your non-existent mustache.
So Super Mario 3D All-Stars DLC, Super Mario Galaxy 2, coming December 18th, 2020.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, again, this list may not be real because it came from Reddit of all places, but at the same time, I've seen it circulating other news outlets. So, it's nice. It's nice
every once in a while, Neil, to just be so Sony's a money grubbing evil company, and then just be reminded who the OG dirtbags are. Nintendo. That's right, Nintendo. Oh, I remember. I hate you, motherfuckers. That's right. The one 3D Mario I haven't gotten to play, other than Odyssey, is Super Mario Galaxy 2, you sons of bitches.
Yeah,
if it's a full $60, or even close to a full $60, we're going to have just a whole show about it.
Oh, no. It's a DLC that goes into the Mario 3D All-Stars. That's what it is. It's not going to be like a whole cart for one game.
All right.
But I'm going to assume that it's going to be $20 as well.
That's ridiculous.
I'm going to assume. Again, it keeps with the pricing formula that they did with 3D All-Stars in general, but it screams to me a notable omission on purpose, strictly for going to just tack it on at the end.
You know what they need to do? They need to just update Mario 64. I just released a review of 3D All-Stars on the channel this morning.
Yeah.
When we're recording it this morning, not when this is coming out this morning. But that's my biggest problem with that is they left just the worst parts of those games in it.
Random side note before we finish this off, I've actually been able to get into 3D All-Stars a bit.
Oh, okay.
And I just started with 64. And I've noticed that the controls, I don't know if they made them hypersensitive or it's just because the Nintendo 64 had a different type of stick as opposed to the one that's on the Switch Pro controller. But oh my lord, I can't there's stuff that I have down to muscle memory and I can't pull it off.
Pull it off, right. And it was funny. Did you watch the Prelude this week too? Because Melissa plays it the first time. I cannot urge you enough to go watch that. It'll be like pulling teeth for you, a gamer, to watch her bumble through this. She falls down a hill 14 times. It's absolutely hysterical.
But I noticed myself doing stupid things like that too.
Yeah.
So honestly,
I had the same problem. Honestly,
it's very interesting. But I'll be interested to see what the review is like as a whole.
Yeah.
Watch that later. But now, the big one, the huge one, the one that we have all been asking questions about and
okay.
wondering, the sequel to Breath of the Wild. There's going to be a teaser trailer and a release window of 2021, but apparently we have a name. The name of the game is The Legend of Zelda Breath of Evil.
Oh. Okay. So
Uh,
we're just gonna do like a Breath trilogy.
I guess. I mean, I can't imagine that they're going to do
The
three
third, the
games
third one
in
is Legend of Zelda: Breath of the COVID. Link has to just stay in his house. That's the challenge.
the whole adventure is actually taking place inside his mind.
right. None of it. He's actually like gained 50 pounds and has a beard.
Just climbing his wall over and over again.
That's great. I'm really worried about what the sequel to that is. I know everybody's kind of blindly excited about that one, and I'm very reserved about it because while I am not going to knock Breath of the Wild at all, I think there were some problems with it that other people didn't really point out when the game first came out, but it's still this like absolute achievement in gaming.
Yeah.
Absolutely, like one of the coolest ways to play. I'm surprised more companies haven't copied it. You know, like it's
There's
just
actually. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I mean, it really is just like the forefront of like gaming. Like it was just like a. I'm not even. I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but it was a real game of the decade sort of thing. But like I don't know how you do a sequel to that because. Like, and then I hear this stuff about it being linear, and I don't want it to be linear. I don't want it to go back to the old Zelda thing, but I've explored that land. I don't want to explore that again. Like, I'm very confused as to what that game could be, honestly.
I will say, in regards to exploring the land of Hyrule in Breath of the Wild, I myself have even made the mistake of saying, oh, well, I've seen the whole thing. I'm still going back through my second playthrough after I beat it on the Wii U like 2 years ago. I am not even kidding. I have found so many things that I had not seen. That map is so huge.
Do we have a few minutes for me to go on a small rant about Breath of the Wild?
Oh, sure. I mean, we make time all the time. So
my biggest problem with Breath of the Wild is that it deserves a more open-ended ending than it got. And I've talked to you about this. When you finish that game, it just rolls credits, and that's it. It doesn't even put you back into the world with everything you have, and it doesn't give you any reason to like keep exploring the world. And I thought that was the biggest letdown for me. With that game, does such a good job of being like rewarding exploration. Just like pick a direction, go in that direction. Something is going to happen that's cool, which is one of the coolest things I like about it. I like that. I like the fact that right off the bat, you have everything. Like after you're off that first plateau, you have everything you will ever need. You'll get upgrades on stuff to make things easier, but anything in the game you can do with what you have right off the bat.
Yeah.
And that's one of the coolest things to me. So, like, I was actually really excited to, like, defeat Ganon. Yeah, kid? I'm in the middle of a rant here. You look beautiful. You have a nice crown on. Do you want to say hi to everybody since you've interrupted?
Hi, everybody.
Yeah, good job. Good job saying hi. You said it nice and loud. I think they could hear that as well.
Hi, Neil. I'm Stella, but I have a crown.
So anyway, I was so excited to like defeat Ganon and then get to just explore the world, and there's no reason for it, and I don't understand why they did that. Like, even if it had been something mundane, like here's a broken village, go find wood for it or something, or, you know, like something, like put me back in the game, open world style, and give me a reason to go explore. Like, I don't need, like, a high-end end game or anything. Just give me a reason to explore. It was my biggest problem with Breath of the Wild. And yeah, I don't know. I don't remember why I started on this trail because Stella came over and talked about a crown for 2 minutes. But
yeah, I mean,
I feel like you talking about your second playthrough, finding new stuff. I I agree with you. There's so much stuff to find in that world, but like, how do you do that again? You know, with that,
See,
and still make it fresh.
and that's the one difference. Like me going back through, it's a whole new game. So you
Right.
could go back through and restart the game and play through because I mean, things even like getting certain abilities that you get from taking down the divine beasts,
Right.
even getting those in a different order changes how difficult the game
It
is.
does.
But again, that's one of those things that you have to do on an entirely new playthrough.
I know because I got
To
one of the most difficult ones early, and it almost made me not play the game to completion.
Yeah, what I think, like to bring it back around to this Breath of Evil, as we're calling it now, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think they need to do what it is that they were talking about doing. I think there should be like a remixing of the whole map, keep the main landmarks the same, but find new buildings or whatever that show up in the landscape. They should do that. And I think if they want to put that linearity in, I feel like they should expand the quest that you partake whenever you go into one of those divine beasts. So
Okay.
each of the beasts has like one thing that you have to do basically. But I feel like it should be like a 3-step process to kind of make you more invested in it because it's something that you can get through in like an hour, the whole kit and caboodle of it.
Right. Right. I
So,
I think if they just added dungeons, I think that would be cool as hell. Like
or
just take the map that you have, put that map in, and then just add entrances to dungeons, like large form dungeons. You'd get my money on that. And then you could just add stuff to the overworld that's also new and fresh. But then you'd have this. Well, you know the overworld, but how about the underworld? You don't really know that yet. You know,
right.
like add another level to it, I guess.
Yeah. But yeah, that's apparently what's going to be coming on October 8th. Again, it came from Reddit, so, take that with a grain of salt, but it's been circulating around, so I mean, it could be real. I mean, we won't know anything from Nintendo until probably the 6th, if not the 7th, if it's even going to happen. So, we'll see what happens, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
All right, so that brings us to odds and ends. This is where we like to collect the news stories that don't quite mean we should talk about them for a whole talking point. Just some random fire stuff that we've collected and we enjoy. Neil, do you want to go first? Or you want me to go first?
Sure, I'll go first.
Go for it.
So we know that the Series X went up. The pre-orders went up for that, and it didn't go the greatest either. I mean, I guess it went better in that everybody knew the pre-order date ahead of time. So I mean, I guess there's that. But an interesting thing happened on Amazon. The total Xbox One X's being sold on Amazon on September 22nd skyrocketed an entire 747%. So, I mean, it could mean a couple things because, I mean, the first most obvious one, I think, is that confused moms and grandmas of the world who are looking for gifts for Christmas or whatever holidays for their respective children or family members
Yeah.
were very just confused and saw Xbox
Yep.
X and bought that one. But
Yep.
there are also a couple different, plays that you could consider as well. It could be people who got the money, they wanted to get a Series X when they only had an original Xbox, saw that the Series X sold out, and like, well, Xbox One X still has upgrades to some regards. It's improvement. It's a newer Xbox. Maybe I'll just buy that. There's also the whole possibility of bots. We know that people had bots buying up pre-orders left and right so they can go to be scalped online.
Right.
The bots possibly could have not distinguished between Xbox One X and Xbox Series X because they're so close in name.
It's close to name. I'm sorry. Not to cut you off, but
No, that was about it anyway.
you know, the Game Scoop guys were like, the whole it's a mix-up thing is not. It's just not. It doesn't make any sense because you do a double take, but like nobody spends the money without looking at it. Yeah, they do. Grandmas, parents, people who aren't part of the gaming ecosystem would easily make this mistake, and that's what happened. Like,
Yeah.
it's silly to think anything else. The boxes even kind of look the same. I mean, yeah, they're different shapes, but they're both black. They both have the X on them. Like, Xbox, your naming convention is terrible, and I don't know why they decided to name this systems the
These are hugging.
great. These systems, the Series X and the Series S, like so close to the One S and the One X. That's the dumbest thing. Like Xbox, huge mistake. Like just name it their code names. They always sound cooler than what you name it. Like why? Why aren't we like the Lockhart and the Anaconda? I'll pre-order the Anaconda just so I can say I pre-ordered a giant snake. It's cool as hell. Like go with those. Ugh. Especially nowadays when like the code names are so public anyway, you know?
You know, I'm so glad that we did ditch though the project names only for this one instance. And that is because every time I heard Xbox Anaconda, the only thing that I could think of is Sir Mix-a-Lot in my head.
My Anaconda
Baby,
don't want none
exactly.
unless you got buns, hon. Yeah.
You could do side bends or sit-ups.
But please don't use that butt. Okay, well,
So now that that's out of the way,
out of the way.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I think if I were to say like I think half of that at least has to have been from like bots because that's something I think with pre-orders that's something that needs to be figured out. You know, the fact that somebody can just use either a program or just an alternate login to just go in and scoop up a pre-order to go scalp it online. I mean, do a lottery, do like Sony was kind of inching towards that with the PS5 pre-orders. They didn't do it the right way, I think. But I feel like we need to do something like that because
I think it's going to be I wish I could be a fly on the wall when one of those dirtbags who use bots to get this so that they could scalp it like realizes what they've done.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Make my day, man. Make my day.
Get them comeuppance.
Right. All right.
All right, what do you got?
Yeah, my first one. Oh my God, my kid is so loud today. I'm sorry, everybody out there. It happens. Hey, can you go over there and watch your tablet, kiddo?
He's fighting with
Can you tell them to stop fighting? This is the 5th time they've been fighting, and I'm going to have to take them away if they don't stop fighting. Okay? Guys, no more fighting.
Okay.
All right? You go play together nicely. Well, thank you for the kiss. All right. You guys go over there, okay?
Okay.
All right. Okay. Sorry about that. Yeah, my first one. Do you know that they are making? So, I'm gonna botch the original game title, but it's an indie developer who made a game called Thomas Was Alone. I think it's called.
Oh yeah, I've heard of it.
They're making a game, a solitaire game with a full campaign, storyline, cutscenes, full motion video cutscenes.
Solitaire, you
Yeah,
said?
solitaire.
Solitaire.
Full solitaire. Full motion video. They're going to have actors, full lines of dialogue, a whole story about it. Yeah, I had to mention that.
That could be like a low key like sleeper hit though.
Mm-hmm.
Like just think about it. Like if there's some crazy like your character has to join a solitaire tournament to save the one they love or something along like that would be very interesting.
Yeah.
I think I think that has potential. Now, if it's literally just like you finish the game and you just play solitaire faster than somebody else, and like the whole dialogue is you guys standing up and shaking hands. Like, I mean, that'll be weird.
Yeah.
But
Right.
I that's interesting. That
Very
could be
interesting.
something
Well, Thomas
depending
Was
on where they're
Alone.
going with
I don't know anything about that game, but I
don't
know
either,
enough to know
unfortunately.
that I think it was a hit.
I know it was popular. I don't know how popular. But yeah, no, I had heard of it and that was about it.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know anything about it. So, but I know enough to know about it. So they had to make something on it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my first one. What's your second one?
All right. Well, my second one actually it kind of leans into our previous conversation, the first talking point about Xbox.
Mhm.
And a little bit about my previous odd and end. So we got a little bit of clarity as to what exactly the consoles will be capable of. And the one comparison that was on a lot of people's minds was comparing, we have the Series S, which is a lower end next gen console, but we have the Xbox One X, which is more powerful than the Series S. So, what is going to be the major trade-offs between those two? Well, apparently, uh, it just depends on what you're looking for. So, the Series S is going to play games as the Xbox One S version, or like the standard version of the game.
Right.
However, it's going to hit 60 frames a second and have ray tracing, but is going to lack the visual enhancements that are going to be present in the Xbox Series X games and the Xbox One X versions of those games.
Yeah.
Whereas the Xbox One X will be primarily locked to 30 frames a second with some exceptions and will not support ray tracing. However, is going to get the visual upgrade still.
Right.
So, I mean, it's just so odd. Like, I don't understand why they didn't do almost a 3-tier system. I mean, there's that rumored Series V, but why
I
they
really think
didn't,
that's just the next upgrade.
which could be. I'm starting to believe that, but I don't know why they didn't discontinue the Series S, make the Xbox One X be the new lower end, make the Series S something that's like a mid-range version and kind of beef up the specs a little bit on it and make it an all digital console, and then their initiative to change what a generation is and think of and how we think of these things and making things consumer forward and everything.
Right.
But they have done it in such a way that makes it so confusing for everybody, and you're basically giving up some things.
All right. Sorry, guys. We had a little bit of technical issues, but we seem to be back on track now. So I'm going to go back into my last odds and ends. And that would be Monster Hunter Rise, man. That game looks freaking awesome. Neil, you got to buy it with me. You got to buy it with me. It's a Switch game.
Yeah, I saw that. I mean, I'm gonna wait for a review at least first.
I will
be
kill
it from you or another source, but
It's
yeah,
probably
no,
going to
it
be from me. That is a day one buy for me. I'll tell you that
'cause
right now.
yeah, we had a brief conversation about it on Discord. It looks interesting because one of my biggest issues from the outside looking in with Monster Hunter is one of those, like, once you're dedicated to doing what you're doing, like, you have a set amount of time that thing takes.
You're right.
And if like something were to happen in regards to, you know, you being attacked or something like that, you're already dedicated to that motion.
Right.
So it's not that like I strictly like just crazy unfettered hack and slash, but I don't know, it seems almost too methodical for me.
Maybe.
But the difference, this, I mean, this game looks like it's totally different though. Like,
The thing
it's
is, though,
Monster Hunter.
again, I think that we're eventually going to do a mini series with you where I force you to play a few hours of Monster Hunter World. Because while there are, like, there's 14 weapons in the game, and each weapon fundamentally changes how you play. So, like, while there are, while while there are weapons that are like force you to commit, there are weapons that don't, you know? So like
Yeah.
I think that like the biggest problem with Monster Hunter is
Pinkie Pie is hurt.
the biggest problem with the idea of like the Monster Hunter World is to really understand like what like you have to go through this huge annoying anime cutscene in the beginning, do the tutorial stuff which is mostly kind of boring and tedious, and then you have to like go into the training part and like go through each one of the 14 weapons and practice the combos with it. And then you can be like, "Oh, this is the weapon I like." And then the game becomes amazing, but like until you know what kind of weapon and playstyle you want, it's very hard. So it's kind of like it's one of those games where like I feel like anybody who says they don't like it didn't play it long enough, and that's fair because I'm a big proponent of the minute something becomes unfun, don't play it. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Rise seems very vertical. I like that. They actually just did some live play footage on TGS, which I've eaten up all that content. I can't wait for this game. The thing that's surprising me is the sheer size of the game because I thought it was going to be like smaller for Switch,
Yeah.
you know, and it's not. It's actually they're saying it's almost as big, if not bigger, than Monster Hunter World, which is a feat in itself.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm very excited about that game. Very excited. That was my last odds and ends. I just want to mention it. We haven't mentioned that game enough, in my opinion.
Oh, no, you're good.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
All right, so that brings us to the end of the show, the main event, the moment you guys have all been waiting for, the Horrible Arena. What is the Horrible Arena if you have not watched or listened? Well, first of all, watch, listen, just a little bit more. But for those people, it is where the two co-hosts will pitch you a game. They will pitch you the title of the game itself, and the developer. And we will pitch based on criteria that we each take turns pitching week after week, and then forget to tell you inevitably. Last week, we forgot to tell you, and the actual choice was pitch a 4. Like, there's a trilogy of games, you're pitching the fourth one. Apparently, you can repitch the fourth one, which we already discussed before. So the quantum coin has been tossed. Neil has the go. Neil has the floor. Pitch away.
All right. So my game would be God of War 4. And it would be done by Santa Monica Studios. Now, I'm going to say I think that this would qualify by any standard because the most recent God of War was it's a soft reboot. From what I understand is how they framed it. It's not technically a 4, even though it is chronologically the next step. That also being said, there's a lot of God of War games outside of 1, 2, and 3. So God of War 4 would see Kratos' journey to the Nordic side of things. So, for anyone unfamiliar with the series, in the original series of games, it was all based off of the Greek mythos, the Greek gods of Olympus. At the very end, spoilers if you have not yet played God of War 3, Kratos essentially literally kills everybody, all the gods, I think, except for there was one of them that might have survived, if I'm remembering correctly. It's been a hot minute, but anyways, he basically brought the end of the world, but to be penitent for his actions, he kills himself. He stabs himself and goes off the cliff. However, you do find at the end that he had stabbed himself and dragged himself off the cliff. I probably should have mentioned that he stabbed himself and was laying on the ground, and then afterwards he kind of scooted off. You can tell that I didn't pre-write the pitch this week. So there is a gap in which Kratos falls off the side of the cliff and to when he shows up alive and well in the Nordic sort of mythos, wherever it is that actually takes place. So it would be his journey outward that way. And I think his journey would bring him across multiple other various like religions and gods from various mythos. because they have already said that God of War, all religions that exist, all exist in that same world. So you have the Egyptian sort of religion with like Ra and Anubis. They could show up. He could trek from Greece across Egypt into wherever it is that he winds up. Um, there's just other various religions without the obvious ones and controversial ones that might show up depending. But I think that that would be an interesting sort of show into what really happened there, because was kind of jarring whenever they announced God of War, the PS4 one, knowing what happened to him at the end of the original games, and then he's just all fine and good with a child and a beard. So that would be my pitch, God of War 4, no matter how horrible my words left my mouth. And it is now your turn.
You're right, it is. You're right, it is. So, my fourth game. This was a tough one. Because there's only so many games that have part threes, honestly. That I didn't understand the question. And there's only so many games that have part threes without a part four. So I really had two that I could think of without anything else. So here we go. My pitch is Project Borderlands 4. My developer is Gearbox. Hopefully by that time, Randy Pitchford will have been fired. What I want from Borderlands 4 is everything we didn't get from Borderlands 3. So my pitch for Borderlands 4 is this is years after everything. The trilogy is wrapped up. The whole Lilith thing and everything, that's done. We're years in the future now. What I want to do is I want to have a character creation system in which you can pick and choose skill trees. So you have to pick one green skill tree, one red skill tree, one blue skill tree. But there's like 4 or 5 skill trees for each, and you get to pick and choose and put together your own character class, which would be something we've never done before. Of course, there would be some character design options as well, so you can actually make up your own Vault Hunter. Then what I want them to do is, we've got the size, we've got the ability. Let's put every planet we've ever put in a Borderlands game in this game. Let's make it a little bit more open world and a little free roaming. So the way I would do this storyline is you start on Pandora, because you have to start on Pandora. It's just the way the games work. And you go through getting your own ship and putting your own crew together. The idea being you get your own Vault Hunters, you get your own crew, you put your own team together. So you're kind of like making a Borderlands around your player choice instead of around their storyline. There can still be great jokes and side quests and everything. Just instead of being very character specific like they've been before, it's a little bit more open-ended. Then you can take your ship up and go hunt for vaults on your own time. Eventually, of course, corporate bad guys would appear, but you'd have like 3 or 4 of them. Not really one standard enemy like your Handsome Jack or your Cringe Twins. I don't think you can do a standard enemy. I think that was the mistake of the Cringe Twins. I don't think anybody's going to live up to Handsome Jack now that he's gone. So I think you do like series of bad guys. And depending on what planets you go to first, what missions you undertake, those are the bad guys that appear in what order. So that's my pitch, Borderlands 4. And I really want the character customization to be all about this one. Like, instead of like hamstringing us to certain Vault Hunters and certain skill trees that come out, I really want people to be able to just fully play with the build. I want people like Phil Billy to go crazy. So like, not only do they get to build their build, but they get to build their own Vault Hunter from the ground up. And I think that would just make so much fun in it. On top of that, I want to streamline the loot-based system. The biggest problem with Borderlands 3, in my opinion, is all the loot comes from small percentages of villains that you have to keep hunting down over and over again. I would like Borderlands to switch to a more Destiny-based loot. In other words, you get the loot based on completing missions and activities and opening chests, not killing bad guys, so that you're not just like spamming a bad guy over and over to get one type of item. I think that would be much better. I also want them to see something in the loot where they can allow it so that you can get a specific weapon that you want. You just have to do more stuff for it. That was something big in Destiny with the Black Forge. You could get a very specific type of weapon, but you had to complete an entire quest chain every time you wanted to do it. So I think that they need to streamline their loot so it's not just like this loot explosion every time you kill a boss sort of system. But that would be my pitch, Borderlands 4. So you guys out there get to vote, and you get to tell us your votes in all the places. It's Project God of War 4 versus Project Borderlands 4. And it's my turn to pick, right? I'm actually going to remember this. It's my turn to pick a subject.
We're remembering?
Watch out, baby.
Oh, wow.
Watch out. Yeah, I'm remembering. So I'm going to be the first one to repeat because we're in the new 52. Everything's game again. So I'm going to be the first one to repeat because this is one of my favorite things to do, and I need a win. So I'm going procedural generation.
Okay.
It'll be games of service next. I need some wins.
Well, I'll tell you though, you probably have won this week too, because I'll even give you a freebie on top of your pitch that you just made.
Mm-hmm.
What if the storyline of Borderlands 4 was that you were employed by one of the main companies, and you get to choose your company, which would lead to like a faction thing in
That would
the
be
game.
really cool. Yeah.
Then from
Yeah, that's really cool. I actually see that more of like that would be a cool spin-off. Because you can't be a vault hunter and work for a company. It just doesn't work.
think you could.
Oh.
I mean, if it's like for nefarious reasons, you want your company to be the one.
Company men are never vault hunters. Never.
I
ever.
mean, no, but there's a lot of people who want inside that vault.
We can't keep arguing about this. But my pitch stands. We can't keep arguing about it.
I'm just saying. I just thought it was a good idea.
All right.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
All right, everybody, that brings us to the end of the show. But before we get into the standard plugs, we're going to talk about something else real quick. And that would be the Horrible Game Awards. We did this last year. It was a little haphazard and all over the place, but me and Neil have sat down. We have come up with specific rules on how we're going to do this, and we want to announce them here first. I will also be putting something in Discord about this as well. So one thing we want to center on is that we will not be doing a game of the year because we want an experience of the year, meaning games could repeatedly win experience of the year, even if they're not released this year. So I'm going to go over the awards that we're going to be doing and any special criteria that go with them. There are 8 awards for us. Our number one big award is going to be experience of the year. The only special criteria is that the game must have received a major update within the year. So, like, it can't be a dead game. You can't pick, like, Uncharted 3 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to do Developer of the Year. We are going to do Best Narrative Game of the Year. I believe this one is specifically to this year. Like, base narrative is what we're looking for. Best New IP is another year specific. This must be a new IP that was released this year. Then we have Best Single Player. This means that you are looking at the game's single-player game by itself. And it can be older than this year. It just also must have released a content update. We are also doing, likewise, a best multiplayer. You're only looking at the multiplayer suite of whatever game you're talking about. And again, it must have received a content update within the last year. Then we also have best performance. Now, I just want to say out there, anybody who wants to nominate a best performance and don't know the voice actor or whatever, just put the character in and what game it's from, and I will go check out that person and find out the names and stuff like that for you. So if you're like, oh, I really like that dude who played, I really like the dude who played Iron Man in Marvel's Avengers, just say that. I'll figure out who played my Iron Man in Marvel's Avengers.
Nolan North, isn't it?
Yes, it's Nolan North.
Yeah.
And then best soundtrack of a game. So best musical soundtrack. The soundtrack of a game must be a game released in this year. It cannot be an older game. So those are our 8 categories. And I want to tell you guys out there, right now, we are accepting nominations. It does not mean that they will make anything in there. But if you will have any games, soundtracks, performances you want us to directly look at and consider, post it in Discord or in any of the YouTube comments, because we'll be talking about this for the foreseeable future. And we will look at them and consider them for whatever, because this is very all about our community. So whoever you guys want to nominate out there, please put it in there. I will also be putting a small little console together, council together like I did last year, of our highest contributing fans, and they will be the ones who help decide the actual nominations and of course vote on the winners themselves, with me and Neil receiving more votes than the normal people. That is how we do that in the interest of transparency. That show will be in December. We're not sure which week. However, I do want to say one final criteria for consideration: the game, soundtrack, whatever, must have been released before November 30th of this year. That has not happened yet. When it does, anything that comes after it won't be considered, which is unfortunate. There are a couple of big releases in December this year thanks to COVID, but we can't consider games that haven't released yet, and we need at least 2 to 3 weeks to put this show together because it's so crazy. So November 30th is our cutoff. So, with that out of the way, you got anything to plug there, Neil?
Well, we did talk a little bit about our terrible talks. I know I finally solidified my topic, and hopefully we'll be able to start putting that together here soon. Outside of that, not much. We have other things that we're looking into, possibly a series, whatnot. So I guess stay tuned for more information.
Yeah, definitely. We'll probably have an OMFD coming up in the next couple of weeks, too, for October. And hopefully by then we'll have a little bit more locked down what kind of shows are coming out. I do want to give a special plug. The next 2 episodes of Borderlands 330 are the final 2 episodes of Borderlands 330. And it was a crazy ride from start to finish. I really, really, really want you guys to check that out. And then I have one other special plug, and that is, if you are listening to this today at 1 p.m., if you are watching this on YouTube yesterday at 1 p.m., On the Hunt, an episode posted. It is really long, like a 52-minute episode. Like, it's crazy long. But the absolute best thing that has ever happened to me on record in video games happens in that game, in that episode. So I urge everybody to check out On the Hunt, episode 32, 7 seconds. I cannot say enough how hype that episode got me and Phil. So I really want to give a special promo to that episode. I special promoted it last episode too. It's actually coming out now, so please check it out. I'm very excited about it. Other than that, of course, you can reach us on Facebook at OManGamingDH, on Twitter at OManGaming9. You can join our Discord. The link is in the description below. You can influence this and all of our shows, as well as our Horrible Game Awards from there. We'd love to hear from you. And if you like this, share it, subscribe it, tell your friends about it. We really need that subscriber count to go up. And either way, as long as you guys keep watching and listening, we'll keep making them. See you guys next week.